Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Matthew Thornton. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I want to share with you concepts and ideas that you can apply in your own life to help improve your relationships and your circumstances. Today, I want to talk with you about a concept called reframing, or reframing your problem. Now, I want to walk you through an example in this, but starting with that, we want to explore the idea that each of us have a particular way in which we view maybe a problem or behavior or something that's occurring in our life. We have a particular frame that we view it from, a frame of reference. This little bracket is going to serve as our frame of reference. And so the prime example that I want to share with you is when my son was in pre-K, he started getting in trouble. And this was out of character for him. He was usually a very good kid. He was not too much trouble at home. When he was with other people, maybe at church or in other groups, he was not a problem at all. Was really sort of a mild-mannered kid. But in pre-K, he started to get in trouble to the point where on Grandparents' Day, he got sent to the principal's office just because of his behavior. And my frame of reference when I first heard what was happening was he was being disrespectful. And as you might imagine, as a dad, if I believe that my child is being disrespectful, I'm going to come at that from a particular angle. I'm going to interact with him based on this frame of reference that he's being disrespectful. And so, come to find out as we started asking a little bit more questions, trying to see what was going on, we started to realize that there was something that was happening that was a little different in his circumstances. He actually wasn't just being disrespectful. We found out that his lunch hour was actually an hour and a half later than what he was used to, just because of scheduling in the school, and they were having to go to lunch later. And so he was not just disrespectful, he was actually hungry. And that hunger was driving his irritability. In actuality, it was just like a Snickers commercial. He was hangry. And that was a completely different thing for us as we've started to find that out in terms of how I wanted to interact with him. So it wasn't that he was just disrespectful. He was hungry. And so that became a new frame for us in how we interacted with him. Now, if your child is hungry, then what are you going to do? Things that we did, we made sure that he had a good breakfast, something that was going to stick with him through the morning. And God bless his preschool teacher. She actually kept some snacks in her drawer that we sent to school, that if she saw him sort of getting irritable, that she would call him up there and give him a little something to eat, so that curbed that behavior altogether. And so by the end of pre-K, he was actually not a problem at all. And so by actually reframing the situation, by seeing it through different eyes, the problem actually started to disappear completely. And that's really the concept with Reframe, is we want to be able to see the problem in such a way that you can interact with it differently so that it no longer becomes a problem. Now, I'll give you another example of a kid that I was working with that got referred to me because of anger issues. He was fighting at school. He was fighting in his neighborhood. And I sat down to talk with this kid. So the problem is fighting. He would fight all the time. And so I sat down with this kid, and it wasn't long that I started to realize that he doesn't seem like just innately an angry person. He wasn't showing any sort of anger towards me. We were having a pleasant conversation. And so I started to ask him, I say, okay, tell me a little bit about what's driving these fights. And he said, you wouldn't understand. I said, you're probably right. But try me anyway. Just kind of talk me through what's going on that you're getting in these fights. And he kind of sunk his shoulders down and he said, you won't understand, but in my neighborhood, if I don't fight, people will take advantage of us. I said, what do you mean by that? What's going to happen? He said, well, I've got a little sister at home, and I'm the only one in the house usually because mom has to work a lot. And so if I don't fight, people will come into our house and maybe mess with my little sister, or they may take our stuff. And that was a completely different frame of reference from initially, you see this kid as just angry. But that's not the case. You start to reframe and get more information, and you can see that it's not just that he's an angry kid, but that he's a protector. He's wanting to protect his little sister and his family. And so my interventions and the way that I talk with him and the way that I talk with others about him completely changed, to the degree that we started to look at other ways that he could protect his family and his little sister that might actually be long-term better solutions for him and for his ability to protect his family. And so the problem that we started to see with fighting really started to dissipate, because he started to see himself differently. He started to see what he could do in terms of protecting his family in a different way. And it really changed and opened up things for him as a kid. He started to see himself differently. Others started to see him differently as well. And so for me, as I think about this idea of reframing, it's not about making something up. It's about really exploring what's present in terms of how you view what's going on in your life. And I ask a couple of questions when I do that. First off, I want to know, is there something that's driving the behavior? A lot of times when I work with kids in particular, especially if they're frustrating, they're angry, behaviors are coming out, you start asking questions about what may be going on in your life or around you right now that might make things difficult. And you learn that a child's parent might be in the hospital, or a grandparent that's been taking care of them that they're very close with has recently passed away. And it's not that they're just misbehaving or bad kids, is that they don't have a way to process the grief and the hurt that's going on in their life, and it's coming out in those behaviors. And as people around them start to understand that, they change their viewpoint of that child. Even the child gets to see them interact with them differently. Those behaviors start to dissipate. It's really about two questions for me. What's driving the behavior, and what function does it serve? And if you can find those things out, then you can start to develop an idea of what the new reframe can be. And as you notice in the example with the young man that was fighting, the reframe uses what's called a redeeming quality. And so as you evaluate your own life, as you evaluate your children and what's going on with them, you have to find that redeeming quality. What about that person is driving them towards that? Maybe that person that's drinking too much is trying to numb out. They just want to get through the day. Maybe it's work stress that's really gotten them, and they're not going to let go and quit that job because they need to do that job to provide for their family. So they're trying to numb that pain, that hurt, that struggle that they're in, so that they can keep working and providing for their family. And so there was a reframe that's in there, that how can you provide for your family without having to numb yourself to the point where you can't be present for them when you're at home. So there's ways in which you want to look differently at your problems. But reframing is a very powerful way for us to be able to get unstuck from the same old patterns and the way in which we view our life. So as a problem is there, and problems will come, you have to find that redeeming quality and reframe how you're viewing that particular problem so it no longer is necessary in the same way that it has been. So I hope this information is helpful for you. This is more of an advanced sort of concept, but it's something I believe that you can apply in your own life, especially if you're looking at helping your kids or someone that you're in a relationship with. It's definitely something that can be very beneficial for you as well. So if you're a mental health professional and you're wanting to find out more about these ideas, cognitive behavioral therapy uses Reframe. Also, plenty of the family therapy approaches, such as strategic family therapy, structural family therapy, they all use this approach of reframing problems and behaviors. So definitely check those approaches out and apply them in your counseling work. Now, if you are struggling with a mental health concern, I want you to reach out to a mental health professional. We know that counseling works, and a counselor can walk you through a process of really identifying what's driving your behavior and what function it serves, the symptoms that you're having in your life, and help you begin to reframe that in a different way so that you can actually move and change your life. So we know that it works, but it takes you reaching out to a counselor. So I hope this information has been helpful to you. Now go out and make a difference in your life.